Welcome to the Sales Influence Podcast, where we talk about fathoming the why and how people buy. I'm your host, Victor Antonio. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for lending me your ears. Today, I want to talk about a question. I get a lot about questions. Yes, it's a question about a question. So one of the questions I often get is, Victor, when you're trying to start a conversation, when you're trying to get somebody into a conversation, how do you do it? Like, how do you start the conversation? And so what I did is I've come up with a little template. I'm going to call these Kickstart question starters. How's that? Kickstart question starter. Sounds like a tongue twister, but let's call them catalysts. These are phrases or topics that you can use to create questions to have a great conversation with a prospect or a client. So I'm going to call this the 5 Ps. These are 5 categories of questions you can ask and have a very engaging conversation with your client. The first one could be a prediction question. That's the first P, a prediction question. People love to be asked questions, so you can ask a prediction question like, Mr. Client, Mr. Prospect, what do you think the market's going to do in the next 3 to 5 months? In your market, Mr. Client, what do you see as the biggest threat? Or maybe they can make a new prediction, right? What do you think? What's your prediction for what's coming next quarter or next year? What's your prediction on the current trends in terms of artificial intelligence or technology? Or what are your predictions on consumer behavior and how those will change over time? See, these are great questions you can ask about prediction, and people love sharing their prediction because it's really, again, just, a guess, and people love having these conversations. Everybody has an opinion. Keep that in mind. The second category of questions, second P, is profit. These are business questions you can ask a prospect or a client to get the conversation going. Maybe you can talk about what's really helping your business today grow, or what's helping you sustain your business. What are some of the changes in your business that's impacting you positively or impacting you negatively? Or maybe in your business space, what are some competitive threats you're seeing? Again, great questions to get the conversation going and let the customer know you're interested in their business, their profitability. Number 3, POV, point of view. Now, this is where you just want somebody's opinion, and this can go from anything. I mean, really, this could be as wide open as you want. This one's usually a great conversation starter. Mr. Client, Mr. Prospect, what's your opinion on the current event happening in the United States or anywhere else? What's your current opinion on this? What's your point of view? What's your take on that? When you look at the, current direction of your company, what's your opinion? What's your point of view? How would you have done it differently? What's your take on it? That's a point of view question. That's definitely a solid one to ask people. Now, the next 2 are more personal. So I put the first 3, prediction, profit, and point of view first because they're more business-oriented and it keeps it more on the professional playing field. But now, as you want to get closer to the prospect or client, you want to start going into some personal space, carefully, of course. One thing I like to ask people is, what are your passions? That's the 4th P, passion, like a hobby. Like, what's one of your hobbies? For those of you who follow me, one of my great hobbies is I love making pens. I am an official pen turner. Yes, writing pens. I make pens, and I love doing that. That's a great pastime. It's a relaxing thing I love to do. My second pastime is I love watching samurai movies, like old Japanese samurai movies. And you'll often be surprised what people tell you when you ask them, what do you do on your time off? What are some of your pastimes? What are some of your hobbies? Do you like sports? What do you do when you're not at work? What really relaxes you? They may be involved with charities, right? They may like reading. I don't know. They may be wine aficionados. Who knows? But you may find something there to connect with them, and that's always a positive. The last P, this is always the tricky one. You got to be careful with those, but this is a good one if you can figure out a way in. And that is the personal one. The last P is personal. In other words, that's about family. Tell me about your kids. Do you have a family? Do you have kids? Are they going to college? What are they doing? So forth and so on. Now, again, I put that one last because you really have to feel comfortable and be in the right space with the client or prospect to ask any personal type questions. We could always ask the general questions like, how long have you been living in Georgia or Minnesota? How long have you been, something general that doesn't really go in personal too quick. I think if you start with the first P, prediction, second P, profit, and third P, point of view. These are always safe questions you can ask, and clients or prospects love talking to you about these things. Now, I'm going to give you one more tip. This is the important one, and then I'm going to give you an exercise. One of the things I like to do is I like to include something called verbal gifting before I ask a question. Now, verbal gifting is where you volunteer something first, and then you ask the question. For example, let's talk about prediction. You can say something like this. This is the verbal gift, and then I'm going to ask them for their opinion. So I'll say, what I see over the next year is the market turning upwards, and I think we're really going to see us hitting, an accelerated pace in the third quarter of next year. What do you think? What's your call on how the market will go? See, by you first giving an opinion, the person feels an obligation to now volunteer an opinion. So let's go with profitability. Right now we're seeing in our business that we're ramping up quickly. We're seeing people buying this more, doing that more. Mr. Customer, Mr. Prospect, what do you see in your business that's really changing? See how I did that? Point of view. On a current event, for example, Mr. Client, Mr. Prospect, right now I view this event as having an impact on A, B, C. What's your take on it? And by doing that, you create this law of reciprocity. In other words, I give you something, I verbally gift you my opinion. You're going to feel the need to reciprocate and give me your opinion. A very powerful strategy. Now, here's the exercise I want you to do. What I want you to do is list all 5 of these categories: prediction, profit, point of view, passion, personal. And then write out at least 3. The big challenge would be 5, but write out at least 3 to 5 questions for each of these categories and really run them through your head on how you would ask your client or a prospect these questions. And again, by having these questions already pre-programmed in your head, when you're in the conversation with the client, it's going to sound more natural. So don't wait to create questions when you're there, and wing it. Have some of these questions already pre-stored, right? They're already stored in your head. They're already recorded. You know how you want to ask them. And when you finally ask these questions, they'll sound more natural, and you won't be grasping for questions to ask to try to get the conversation going. And don't forget, always add a little verbal gift before some of your questions if you really want to get a client to respond to you. And that is it for the Sales Influence Podcast. Let me know what you think. I'd love to get your feedback. You can find me on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Pandora, Spotify, anywhere you find me. Love to hear your feedback. Also, if you haven't done so already, check out the Sales Velocity Academy. If you want to sell more, faster, check out salesvelocityacademy.com. Over 50 courses, 500 videos to help you be a better salesperson. Also, every month I'm doing 2 masterclasses, workshops online. Go to my website, check out what's on tap for this month, and maybe I'll see you in the workshop. And that's it. This is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selenate hard when you know how. Take care.
Hi, I'm Victor Antonio. I'm an author, sales trainer, and keynote speaker. I'm often asked, what makes a great speaker? Is it someone who delivers real content that the audience can use? Is it someone who engages the audience so they're part of the learning experience? Or is it someone who can motivate an audience to push them beyond their comfort zone and discover new abilities? The answer is yes. But the most important thing to remember is that I'm not there to look good. I'm there to make my client look good. Simply put, it's never about me, and it's always about them.